The Viper of Busan, a man who once made millionaires beg and politicians tremble, now sat abandoned in an airport terminal, unable to reach the water fountain 6 feet away. 6 hours he'd been invisible, a ghost in an expensive suit, until exhausted single mom with a screaming toddler looked at him and saw what everyone else refused to: another human being who needed help. Welcome, where stories hit different. Don't forget to subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. Youngwoo Park had exactly $47 in his pocket, a dead phone, and the kind of desperation that tastes like copper pennies on your tongue. Terminal 7 at LAX was a circus of controlled chaos. Businessmen speed walking toward gates like their lives depended on it, families arguing about lost boarding passes, teenagers glued to phones, and one very alone Korean man in a wheelchair that cost more than most people's annual salary. The wheelchair was state of the art, imported from Germany, with enough technological bells and whistles to practically drive itself. Too bad Youngwoo couldn't charge his phone to actually use any of those features. He'd been sitting in the same spot for 6 hours and 12 minutes. He knew because he'd counted every single painful second. The text from Soo-yeon still burned in his mind. Change my mind. Figure it out yourself. We're even now. Even. The word was a slap across the face with a wet fish. They weren't even. They'd never be even. Youngwoo had missed 12 years of his daughter's life because he'd chosen his empire over everything else. And now karma was serving him a 5-course meal of cosmic justice. And he had to eat every bite. People walked past him like he was furniture. A decorative plant. An inconvenient obstacle between them and their Starbucks lattes. Youngwoo had spent his entire adult life commanding respect through fear, and now he couldn't even get someone to make eye contact long enough to ask where the nearest charging station was. The irony wasn't lost on him. The Viper of Busan, the man who'd once had 50 armed guards, 17 safe houses, and enough offshore accounts to make a tax attorney weep, couldn't perform the basic human function of asking for help. Pride was a funny thing. It kept you warm right up until the moment it strangled you. His stomach growled. When was the last time he'd eaten? The airplane peanuts didn't count. Those things were basically salted cardboard, a crime against food everywhere. In Korea, he'd had a personal chef who prepared his meals with ingredients sourced from specific farms in Jeju Island. Now he was eyeing a sad-looking hot dog at a kiosk 20 feet away like it was fine dining. 20 feet might as well have been 20 miles. Youngwoo watched a businessman in a gray suit approach, walking directly toward him. Finally, someone with eyes that actually functioned. Youngwoo opened his mouth to speak, but the man's gaze slid right past him, settled on the empty chair 3 feet to the left, and kept moving. Didn't even register Youngwoo's existence. That stung more than it should have. A janitor mopped near his wheelchair, making a wide arc around him like Youngwoo was contaminated. An elderly couple walked past, the wife clutching her purse a little tighter when she noticed him. College kids gave him the kind of look you give a homeless person you're trying very hard to pretend you don't see. Youngwoo had made men disappear for lesser disrespect. Now he couldn't even make himself visible. His phone was dead. His contacts were useless even if he could call them. Min-jun had made sure of that. His daughter had abandoned him at an airport like lost luggage. And his legs, those traitorous pieces of meat that used to carry him through nightclubs and boardrooms and away from danger, were about as useful as decorative pillows. The overhead speaker announced a flight to Seoul. Youngwoo's chest tightened. Seoul, Busan, home. Except it wasn't home anymore, was it? Home was wherever Min-jun decided Youngwoo wasn't allowed to be, which, as of 3 months ago, was pretty much everywhere. He needed a plan. Youngwoo Park always had a plan. That's how you survive 3 assassination attempts and 2 federal investigations. That's how you build an empire from nothing in one of the most competitive criminal markets in East Asia. You plan. You adapt. You survive. Except his survival toolkit was currently limited to one fancy wheelchair, $47, the clothes on his back, and crushing existential dread. A family rushed past, the father dragging luggage, the mother carrying a baby, 2 kids trailing behind arguing about an iPad. Normal people, living normal lives, going to normal places to do normal things that didn't involve betrayal, paralysis, or international manhunts. Woo had never wanted to be normal. Normal was boring. Normal was working 60 hours a week to afford a mortgage you'd spend 30 years paying off. Normal was settling. But right now, watching that family disappear toward their gate, Normal looked pretty damn good. His wheelchair beeped, low battery warning. Perfect. Just perfect. In approximately 45 minutes, even his chair would abandon him. He'd be completely immobile in one of the busiest airports in America, unable to call anyone, unable to move, unable to do anything except sit there and contemplate the spectacular collapse of his entire existence. The mighty Viper of Busan, reduced to checking his wheelchair's battery life like it was a phone he desperately needed to last through the day. That's when he heard it. A voice. Female. American. Exhausted. Jaden, baby, Mama told you 3 times we don't run in airports. 3 times. Woo looked up, and his entire life changed direction. Keisha Williams was operating on exactly 45 minutes of sleep, 2 gas station energy drinks, and the kind of determination that comes from being a single mother who's already survived 3 canceled flights, 1 lost diaper bag, and Jaden's complete psychological breakdown over not getting the blue juice box. The blue juice box. As if the red one contained poison. She was dragging 2 rolling suitcases that had seen better decades, a car seat that weighed approximately 900 pounds, and her 3-year-old son who decided that the airport floor was lava and therefore required being carried everywhere like a tiny, screaming emperor. Keisha's back hurt. Her feet hurt. Her soul hurt. And then she saw him. The man in the wheelchair, sitting alone near gate 47, looking like someone had personally informed him that happiness was canceled indefinitely. He was Asian, Korean, maybe wearing a suit so expensive it probably had its own insurance policy. His face carried the kind of exhaustion that comes from somewhere deeper than just lack of sleep. This was existential tiredness, the kind that settles into your bones. Keisha knew that look. She'd seen it in the mirror often enough. Everyone was walking past him. Everyone. Like he was invisible. Like he didn't exist. And something about that made Keisha's chest tight with the kind of anger that comes from watching people be casually cruel without even realizing it. She'd been invisible before. When you're a single black mom in America, invisibility comes standard with the package. People look right through you in stores, assume you can't afford things, watch you a little too closely in nice neighborhoods. Invisible until they need something to judge. Then suddenly you're the most visible person in the room. So Keisha did what Keisha does. She walked right up to this stranger and asked, "Baby, why are you sitting here all alone? Where are people at?" The man blinked at her like she'd just spoken in ancient Sumerian. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. He looked utterly bamboozled, as if the concept of another human being addressing him directly had short-circuited his entire brain. "You hungry?" Keisha didn't wait for an answer. She was already digging through her purse, that magical Mary Poppins bag that contained everything from baby wipes to her grandmother's church fan to, apparently, sandwiches. "You look hungry. Here, I got extras." She pulled out a slightly squashed peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a Ziploc bag. Grape jelly. The good stuff. The man stared at the sandwich like it was an alien artifact, like she just offered him a live grenade with a smiley face drawn on it. "It's peanut butter," Keisha explained, jiggling Jaden on her hip. "You're not allergic, right? Please don't be allergic. I cannot handle another medical emergency today." Jaden already tried to eat a penny at security. Woo's translator app on his phone would have been helpful right about now, except his phone was deader than disco. He caught maybe every 3rd word. Hungry, peanut, emergency, penny. What was happening? Who was this woman? Why was she talking to him? "You speak English?" Keisha asked, already settling into the chair next to him like they were old friends. She handed Jaden her phone with a Cocomelon video queued up, the parenting equivalent of a sedative. "It's cool if you don't. My cousin Tasha's boyfriend is from Mexico, and he barely speaks English, but somehow they communicate just fine. I think they just argue in both languages simultaneously. It's wild." Woo managed to croak out, "English small. Small English. That's perfect. I know small Korean." Keisha held up her fingers in a tiny gap. "Like this much. I watched Squid Game. Twice. I know how to say." She paused, clearly trying to remember. "안녕하세요." The pronunciation was absolutely massacred, like the Korean language had been put through a blender and served as a smoothie. But Youngwoo, the Viper of Busan, the man who once made a Russian arms dealer cry during negotiations, felt the corner of his mouth twitch. Almost smiled. He'd forgotten his face could do that. Close, he said carefully in English. Close. See, we communicating already. Keisha beamed. I'm Keisha. This is Jaden. He's 3, and he's currently obsessed with excavators. Don't ask him about excavators unless you got 45 minutes to spare. Youngwoo, he replied, his English rusty from disuse but functional enough. John Woo? Like the action movie director? That's dope. Keisha was already unwrapping the sandwich. You want half? I actually have like 3 more of these. I made them this morning thinking the flight would have food, but she made a disgusted noise. They wanted to charge me $12 for a turkey wrap that looked like it was made during the Obama administration. First term, Youngwoo accepted the sandwich half because refusing would have required more English than he currently possessed, and also because his stomach was actively considering filing a missing persons report on food. He took a bite. Peanut butter, grape jelly, white bread. It was the best thing he'd eaten in 6 months. Good, right? Keisha said, watching him with satisfaction. Jaden won't eat them anymore because he saw some YouTube video saying peanut butter is made from bugs or whatever. Kids are ridiculous. Last week he was eating dirt. This week peanut butter is beneath him. Youngwoo was experiencing several emotions simultaneously. Confusion about why this stranger was helping him, gratitude that someone finally saw him, and the bizarre realization that he was eating a children's sandwich in an airport terminal while his entire criminal empire burned to the ground across the Pacific Ocean. You flying somewhere or just hanging out? Keisha asked. Because if you're trying to get to Korea, I hate to tell you this, but you're sitting at the wrong gate. Korea flights are in the international terminal. This is domestic. You heading to like Atlanta? Orlando? Youngwoo's brain stuttered. Wrong terminal. Of course it was the wrong terminal. Because why would anything go right today? He started, then realized he had no idea how to explain his situation. Well, you see, I'm a paralyzed crime lord whose organization betrayed him and whose daughter abandoned him at LAX. And I have no money, no phone battery, and no plan. Also, I might be wanted by Interpol. How's your day going? Lost, Keisha supplied helpfully. Yes, Youngwoo agreed. It was the understatement of the century, but it worked. Baby, you and me both, Keisha laughed, but it was tired around the edges. I'm supposed to be in Atlanta 3 hours ago, but the universe had other plans. My mama's probably already calling everyone in her church prayer circle to pray for my travel safety. I'm going to show up, and she's going to have a whole healing service prepared. Jaden looked up from the phone. Meemaw. Yes, baby, we're going to see Meemaw. If we ever get on an actual airplane. Youngwoo watched this woman, this complete stranger, juggle her son, her bags, her exhaustion, and somehow still have enough energy to care about a random disabled man sitting alone in an airport. Min Jun had betrayed him for $50 million and control of an empire. This woman had stopped for him because he looked lonely. The math didn't make sense. The universe didn't make sense. But the sandwich was good, and for the first time in 6 hours, Youngwoo didn't feel invisible. Keisha had been talking for approximately 17 minutes straight. A personal record even by her standards, covering topics ranging from why Delta was superior to United, better snacks, her sister's drama with her no-good boyfriend Deshaun. He forgot her birthday again, and the absolute tragedy that was airport coffee pricing, $7 for burnt sadness in a cup. Youngwoo understood maybe 40% of what she was saying, but he nodded along anyway. Because, honestly, this was the most human interaction he'd had since the accident. In the hospital, people had talked at him. Doctors with their clipboards, nurses with their sympathetic head tilts, Min Jun with his corporate betrayal PowerPoint. Nobody had talked to him like he was just a person. So anyway, Keisha continued, shifting Jaden to her other hip. I told my sister, I said, girl, if a man can't remember your birthday, he definitely ain't remembering where he left his standards. You know what I'm saying? Youngwoo did not know what she was saying, but he nodded because Keisha had the kind of energy that demanded agreement. You got kids? She asked suddenly. Youngwoo's chest tightened. Daughter. Oh, how old? 29. 29. So you a real grown-up daddy. That's nice. She close by? She coming to pick you up? And there it was. The question that made Young Woo want to will himself directly into the ocean. How did you explain to a stranger that your daughter hated you so much she'd rather leave you stranded in an airport than spend 30 minutes in a car together? She, busy, Young Woo managed. Keisha's eyes narrowed in that way mothers do when they smell nonsense. Busy? Baby, you sitting here for how long you been here? 6 hours. 6 hours? Keisha's voice went up 3 octaves. Several people nearby turned to look. And she ain't come get you? What kind of busy is that busy? Is she performing surgery? Is she negotiating world peace? Is she... Wait. Youngwoo searched for the English words. Not close. Oh. Keisha's expression softened immediately. Oh, baby. I'm sorry. Family stuff is hard. Youngwoo shrugged, trying to look casual while his heart was doing somersaults of shame. Here he was, the great viper of Busan, discussing his failed relationship with his daughter with a woman he'd met 20 minutes ago. Min Jun would have laughed himself into a coma if he could see this. Actually, Min Jun would probably try to have Young Woo killed again, but that was beside the point. Well, Keisha declared, slapping her hands on her knees with decision. You can't just sit here forever. What's your plan? You got a hotel? Friends in LA? Young Woo had exactly 0 plans, 0 hotels, and negative 17 friends. His plan had been, daughter picks him up, he recovers at her place while plotting revenge against Min Jun, eventually reclaim his empire or die trying. That plan had lasted exactly until the text message that torpedoed his entire existence. No plan, he admitted. No plan? Baby, you need a plan. You can't just... Keisha stopped mid-sentence, her eyes going wide. Wait, you got money? Please tell me you got money. Young Woo pulled out the $47 from his pocket like he was displaying a dead fish. Keisha stared at the crumpled bills. $47? In Los Angeles? Baby, you can't even get a decent burger for that in this city. What are you gonna do, sleep on a bench? The honest answer was that Young Woo hadn't thought that far ahead. His escape from Korea had been so rushed, so desperate, that he'd focused entirely on getting out without considering what being out actually meant. This is bad, Keisha muttered, starting to pace. Jaden watched her with the solemn expression of a child who'd seen his mother enter crisis management mode before. This is real bad. You're in a wheelchair, you got no money, no phone. Your phone work? Young Woo held up his dead phone. Of course it don't work. Why would anything be easy? Keisha was fully spiraling now, talking more to herself than to Young Woo. Okay, we can figure this out. I'm good at figuring stuff out. One time Jaden locked us out of the apartment, and I got back in using a credit card and a YouTube video. I can do this. Young Woo was touched by her concern and also mildly alarmed. This woman had known him for less than half an hour and was already orchestrating a rescue mission like he was her personal responsibility. You don't, he started. Don't even start with that, you don't have to help me stuff. Keisha cut him off. I seen you sitting here for 6 hours, John Woo. Everybody else walked past you like you was a trash can. You know why I stopped? Young Woo shook his head. 'Cause 2 years ago, I was stuck at the Greyhound station in Detroit with baby Jaden, no money, no phone, and my ex-boyfriend Jaden's daddy had just left us there after we had a fight. I was sitting there crying, trying to figure out how I was going to get home, and this old lady, Mrs. Patterson, I'll never forget her name. She bought me a bus ticket home. Didn't ask questions. Didn't lecture me. Just help. Keisha's eyes were fierce now, locked on Young Woo. She told me, baby girl, when you see someone who needs help, you help. That's it. That's the whole thing. So I'm helping. Young Woo felt something crack in his chest. Something that had been frozen solid since the accident, since the betrayal, since Soo Yun's text message. He'd spent 6 months surrounded by people who wanted him dead or gone. And now here was this stranger, this exhausted single mother with her own problems, deciding that his problems were worth her time. Thank you, he said quietly. The English words felt inadequate for what he was trying to express. Don't thank me yet. I still got to figure out what we're actually going to do. Keisha chewed her lip, thinking, you got any credit cards? Anything. Young Woo shook his head. Min Jun had frozen everything. Every account, every card, every asset. The man had been thorough. Okay, so here's what we're not going to do, Keisha announced. We're not going to leave you here. That's off the table. I don't care if I gotta sneak you in my mama's house in Atlanta like you're a stray cat she told me not to bring home. The image of him being smuggled into someone's grandmother's house was so absurd that Woo almost laughed. Almost. My flight to Atlanta leaves in 2 hours, Keisha continued. Your phone dead, you can't call nobody, and you definitely can't afford a hotel in LA. So here's what I'm thinking. An announcement blared overhead. Attention passengers. Due to ongoing technical difficulties, all flights are experiencing delays. We apologize for the inconvenience. Keisha and Woo looked at each other. You gotta be kidding me, Keisha groaned. Woo's wheelchair beeped. Battery at 15%. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all, and it was terrible. Where in a map are you watching from? The airport had officially descended into chaos. Delayed flights had turned Terminal 7 into a refugee camp for the inconvenienced. Businessmen were arguing with gate agents like their PowerPoint presentations could intimidate weather patterns. Families had created entire living room setups with blankets and pillows. One woman was doing yoga near the Cinnabon. Someone's emotional support peacock was causing a scene near Gate 52. A peacock. At LAX, Woo had seen many strange things in his criminal career, but America was truly on another level. Keisha had claimed 3 chairs near an outlet, worth more than gold in an airport during delays, and was attempting to charge Woo's phone using a cord she'd MacGyvered from her own charger and what appeared to be sheer willpower. Come on, she muttered, jiggling the connection. I've charged worse phones than this. One time I kept my phone alive for 3 days using a car battery and pure spite. Woo believed her. Keisha had the energy of someone who'd fought the universe to a stalemate multiple times and refused to lose. Jaden was occupied with a coloring book Keisha had produced from her magical purse, drawing what appeared to be either an excavator or a demented dinosaur. Hard to tell. Okay, Keisha said, settling into crisis management mode. Let's assess the situation. You're Woo Park from Korea. You're paralyzed? Accident. Woo hesitated, then nodded. Close enough. You got a daughter who left you at the airport, no money, no friends in LA, and she gave him a pointed look. I'm guessing there's more to this story than you're telling me. Woo's poker face had been legendary in Seoul. He could bluff his way through million-dollar negotiations without flinching. But Keisha Williams stared at him with the x-ray vision of a woman who'd heard every excuse in the book and several that weren't in the book, and Woo felt his defenses crumble like a sandcastle in a tsunami. Complicated, he managed. Baby, my life is an entire TV drama. Try me. Woo looked at this woman, really looked at her. She was maybe 30, with exhausted eyes that still managed to sparkle with something like hope. She wore leggings and an oversized Howard University sweatshirt. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun that suggested style was the last thing on her priority list after Keep Child Alive and Catch Flight. She had absolutely no reason to help him, every reason to walk away. And yet here she was, trying to charge his phone like it was a matter of national security. Bad people, Woo said carefully. In Korea, looking for me. Keisha's eyebrows shot up. Bad people? Like bad? Like mafia bad, or like you owe money to a loan shark bad? Woo made a SOSO gesture with his hand. Oh my God, Keisha breathed. You're in witness protection or something? Something, Woo agreed. It was easier than explaining he was the mafia. And your daughter won't help you because she hate me. The bluntness of it seemed to catch Keisha off guard. She sat back in her chair, processing. Jaden chose that moment to hold up his drawing. Mama, look, excavator. That's beautiful, baby, Keisha said automatically, then turned back to Woo. She hate you. Or like teenager, I hate you, but she actually loves you? Real hate. Damn. Keisha was quiet for a moment. What you do? Woo considered lying, considered deflecting. But something about Keisha's directness demanded honesty. I choose work, not choose her. Many years. Understanding flickered across Keisha's face. You weren't there. No. And now you need her, and she said, figure out yourself. Woo nodded. That's cold, Keisha said, but there was something in her voice that wasn't quite judgment. But I get it. My daddy wasn't there either. Left when I was 6. Showed up at my high school graduation like he deserved a trophy for the bare minimum. She shook her head. I didn't talk to him for 10 years after that. You talk now. He died, Keisha said simply. Heart attack. And you know what the worst part was? I was still mad at him. Even at his funeral, I was sitting there thinking, you don't get to die before I forgive you. That's not how this works. Young-woo understood that feeling intimately. Anger was easier than grief. Resentment was safer than forgiveness. I'm sorry, he said. Yeah, well, Keisha shrugged. Can't change the past. Only thing we can control is what we do right now. She looked at him pointedly. You gonna try to fix things with your daughter? She now want fix. That wasn't the question. I asked if you're gonna try. Young-woo opened his mouth, then closed it. In all his planning, all his schemes about revenge against Min Jun, reclaiming his empire, surviving, he hadn't actually thought about Soo-yeon beyond her utility as an escape route. He hadn't considered that maybe, possibly, he owed her more than just showing up when he needed something. I don't know, he admitted. Well, that's honest at least, Keisha said. Look, I don't know your whole situation, but know what it's like to have a parent who wasn't there. And I know what it's like to need help and have everyone pretend they don't see you. So here's what we're gonna do. She leaned forward, and Young-woo recognized the expression on her face. It was the same expression he'd worn countless times before negotiations, before hostile takeovers, before battles that would determine the fate of his organization. It was the look of someone preparing for war. My flight's delayed another 3 hours, Keisha continued. Your phone's charging. We're gonna figure out your next move. You got enemies in Korea, fine. You're an American now. Fresh start. But first, she pulled out her phone. We're gonna get you somewhere safe for the night because you're not sleeping on an airport bench like a Christmas movie character. I have no money, Young-woo reminded her. I got a credit card with exactly enough room on it for maybe one cheap motel room, Keisha said. And before you start with the pride thing, let me tell you something my grandmama used to say. Pride don't keep you warm at night, and it damn sure don't keep you safe. Young-woo stared at her. You use credit card? For stranger? You ain't a stranger no more, John Woo. We shared a peanut butter sandwich. That's legally binding friendship in most states. Despite everything, the betrayal, the pain, the absolute catastrophe of his life, Young-woo felt his lips twitch into something resembling a smile. Why you help me? Keisha looked at him for a long moment, then at Jaden coloring peacefully, then back at Young-woo. Because somebody helped me when I needed it, she said simply. And because everybody deserves a second chance. Even daddies who weren't there. She paused. Especially them. Young-woo's phone buzzed. 5% battery. Enough to make calls. So, Keisha said, standing up and brushing off her leggings like she was preparing for battle. We gonna sit here feeling sorry for ourselves? Or are we gonna make a plan? Young-woo looked at this woman, this absolute force of nature in human form, and made a decision. We make plan, he said. Keisha grinned. That's what I'm talking about. Now, first thing, we gotta get you away from this terminal before your wheelchair dies. Second thing, Keisha, Young-woo interrupted. Yeah. Thank you. She waved him off. Thank me when we actually survive this mess. Now come on, we got work to do. And just like that, the Viper of Busan found himself taking orders from a single mom from Detroit. Stranger things had happened, but not many. 3 months later, Young-woo Park was learning to make kimchi in Keisha's mother's kitchen in Atlanta. This was not how he'd envisioned his life going. No, baby, you gotta really massage the cabbage, Mrs. Williams instructed, her hands demonstrating the proper technique. Put some feeling into it. You don't ask the cabbage politely. You tell it what's happening. Young-woo, the former Viper of Busan, was being lectured about vegetable massage by a 72-year-old black woman from Georgia who called everyone baby and had opinions about everything. Like this? He asked, pressing harder into the Napa cabbage. Better. See, you're learning. Keisha, your boy's finally getting it. He's not my boy. Mama, Keisha called from the living room where she was helping Jaden with his alphabet. We're business partners. Hum. Mrs. Williams hummed in that way that meant she didn't believe a single word. Business partners who live in my house and make kimchi together on Sunday mornings. Young-woo's English had improved enough to catch the implication. His face heated. Mrs. Williams, I assure you, baby, I'm teasing. Relax. She patted his arm. Though you could do worse than my Keisha. She's a handful, but she's got a good heart. The past 3 months had been the strangest of Youngwoo's life. After that night at LAX, Keisha had used her credit card to get them a cheap motel room. Then she'd missed her flight to Atlanta to help Youngwoo figure out his next move. One missed flight became two. Two became, you know what, Mama, I'm bringing someone home with me. Mrs. Williams had taken one look at Youngwoo, paralyzed, desperate, clearly running from something, and said, "Guest room's upstairs. Don't track mud on my carpets, and we'll be fine. No questions, no judgment, just Southern hospitality that hit harder than any of Min Jun's betrayals." Youngwoo had spent the first month in physical therapy that Mrs. Williams's church had somehow fundraised for. He'd spent the second month helping Keisha start a consulting business, using his decades of corporate knowledge. She didn't need to know it was mostly illegal corporate knowledge to help small businesses with strategy and planning. By month 3, he could stand with a cane, could take steps, could almost imagine a life that didn't involve looking over his shoulder every 5 seconds. Almost. His phone rang. The cheap prepaid one Keisha had bought him. Unknown number. International code. Korea. Youngwoo's blood went cold. "You okay, baby?" Mrs. Williams asked, noticing his expression. "You look like you've seen a ghost." He stared at the phone, vibrating insistently in his hand. Youngwoo. Keisha appeared in the doorway, Jaden on her hip. Her smile faded when she saw his face. "What's wrong?" The phone kept ringing. Nobody from Korea should have this number. He'd been so careful, used encrypted emails for the few business contacts he still trusted, kept his head down, stayed invisible. But the phone was ringing, and Youngwoo knew, knew that whoever was calling had found him for a reason. His thumb hovered over the answer button. "Don't answer it," Keisha said sharply, reading his mind. If it's them, if it's the bad people, but Youngwoo was already pressing accept. Some habits died hard, and one of those habits was never running from a fight. "Yes," he said in Korean. "Boss." The voice was young, familiar. One of his former guards. "Jihoon, maybe?" "Boss, you need to come home." "I have no home in Korea," Youngwoo replied coldly. "Min Jun is dead." The world tilted. "What? Someone killed him. 2 days ago. May look like an accident, but we know. Everyone knows." Jihoon's voice was urgent. "The organization is falling apart. The lieutenants are fighting for control. It's chaos, boss. We need you." Youngwoo's mind raced. Min Jun dead. The man who'd betrayed him, paralyzed him, stolen everything dead. "Why you call me?" Youngwoo asked carefully. "Because half the organization never wanted you gone. We were waiting. And now," Jihoon paused, "now we have a chance to take it all back. The people who stayed loyal, we've been planning. We can restore you, put you back in power. But we need you here." Youngwoo looked up. Keisha was watching him with worried eyes. Mrs. Williams had stopped massaging cabbage. Even Jaden was quiet, sensing the tension. "Boss," Jihoon pressed. "What do you want us to do?" What did he want? 3 months ago, the answer would have been immediate: revenge, power, restoration of his empire. The Viper of Busan would have been on the next plane, ready to reclaim what was his. But that was 3 months ago, before Keisha, before Mrs. Williams, before Sunday morning kimchi lessons and honest work and learning what it meant to be visible for the right reasons, before he'd started to become someone he didn't hate. "I need time," Youngwoo said finally, "to think." "We don't have time," Jihoon urged. "If you don't come back now, someone else will take control. This opportunity won't last." 24 hours, Youngwoo said. "I call you tomorrow." He hung up before Jihoon could protest. The kitchen was silent except for the ticking of Mrs. Williams's rooster clock. "What was that?" Keisha asked quietly. Youngwoo set down the phone, looked at the kimchi they'd been making. At this kitchen in Atlanta, so far from Busan. At this life he'd accidentally built from the wreckage of his old one. "My past," he said, "calling me home." And Keisha's voice was carefully neutral, but her eyes were sharp. "You going?" Youngwoo opened his mouth to answer. His phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number, but he recognized the style immediately. From Suyun. "I heard about Min Jun. I know they'll call you. Don't go back, Dad. Please. You'll die there, and I just got you back." Another buzz. This time from Jihoon. "Forgot to mention, there's a price on your head if you don't come back. The other faction sees you as a threat Either way. Clock's ticking, boss. Young-woo stared at both messages. The Empire was calling him home. His daughter was begging him to stay. And somewhere between Atlanta and Busan, between the man he'd been and the man he was becoming, Young-woo had to make a choice. Keisha crossed her arms. So what's it going to be, John-woo? You going to go be the Viper again? Or are you going to stay here and keep being the man who makes terrible kimchi but shows up for people who need him? Mrs. Williams added quietly, "Can't run from your past forever, baby. But you also can't let it swallow your future." Jaden looked up from his coloring book. "Mr. Wu staying?" 4 pairs of eyes watched Young-woo Park, former crime lord, current kimchi student, man caught between 2 worlds. He picked up his phone and made a call that would change everything. To be continued. Comment "Don't go back" if you think Young-woo should stay in Atlanta and build his new life, or reclaim the Empire if you think he should return to Korea and take back what's his. Only people like Min Jun, backstabbers who choose power over people, wouldn't engage. Don't be like Min Jun. Drop your vote in the comments and hit subscribe to find out what Young-woo decides. The next chapter drops soon, and trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next.